What's up, guys? Welcome to man, I might have been cut off there. Welcome to another episode. Now I'm laughing. Damn it, I almost had it. Another episode of Nightmare Road. I am one of your hosts, Deacon, here with a very fabulous looking
SOS.
And we have a very, very special guest here. We have Mr. Nate of the Shadows.
How are you all doing tonight?
So,
You're doing excellent.
oh man, I am excited. Dude, this is cool.
I'm always excited for this kind of conversation. Let me tell you, it's you never know where they're gonna go, and sometimes you just learn something new and you didn't even know you wanted to know it.
All right, let's get loose. Okay, so, all right, brother. So, you have a very interesting story with. It was funny because I was just studying voodoo the other day and yesterday. So, you have a very interesting story when it comes to a voodoo doll, correct?
I do. So I'm Wiccan, and back in my younger days of being a teenager, I was dumb and started a type of Wicca or type of black magic called Vodun, also more commonly known as voodoo.
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine that had wronged me, so I took it upon myself to make a voodoo doll. I slept at his house quite a bit. You know, he was like my best friend. And so I took some of his personal belongings and made a voodoo doll. And, well, let's just say something went wrong, and I don't know what it was, because after I made the doll, I started being haunted by something very negative, and I've still yet to this day been able to figure out what it is.
Is it still with you?
It is not. I have not seen it in probably, I would say, 10 or 11 years. So when it first started, I thought it was my dog. So we used to have a pit bull named Stormy. She lived to be about 15, which is a pretty decent age for a pit bull.
Yeah.
She used to sleep in my bed every night with me. That was like kind of like my cuddle buddy, you know? Well, she got to the point where old age kind of took over and she couldn't control her bodily functions anymore, and she started urinating on my bed in her sleep.
No.
So I got to the point where I took her over to the bedroom door one night and I kicked her out. I said, Stormy, you can't sleep in here anymore, honey. You're making messes on my bed. I love you to death, but we can't do that. So she's walking down the hallway, and I remember looking out of the hallway and I saw her look back at me, and she looked really sad. The next morning, my father woke me up and told me that she had passed away. So I kind of, you kind of feel guilt with that kind of thing. So I don't know if maybe whatever happened with the voodoo doll and my own guilt psychosomatically caused what was happening. I mean, I'm not going to, rule it out of the realm of plausibility. But I can tell you that over the next several weeks, I kept feeling tugging on the bottom of my blanket near my feet, which is typically where she would lay. And for some reason one night, I don't know if I was half asleep or what, I felt the tugging on my blanket and I said, Stormy, you got to stop that, honey. And I kicked my foot back. I hit something solid, and then it clicked in my head. Stormy died a week ago. What did I just kick? And then I heard a voice that I can only describe as not very friendly sounding. I'm not going to say demonic because I don't like that word per se.
Did it sound like me?
Oh, much deeper, much more guttural.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And it said my name.
Oh.
So I finally kind of mustered up the guts. I don't know what I can say and can't say on here. I was going to say the balls, but I don't know if...
Nah, dude, say whatever the hell you want.
Say whatever you want.
I'm gonna start saying racist things in a minute.
That's okay. So I finally mustered up the balls to roll over and turn my light on, and my closet door was wide open. Now, I'm OCD about having closet doors. Back in like 1989, 1990-ish, I saw a movie called Monster in the Closet, and it scarred me. It was a horrible B movie, but it scarred me, and I am OCD about having doors shut. Till this day, I will go to bed and every single door in the house will be shut. So I went out of my way to put a latch on my closet door so I know for a fact when I went to bed, the door was latched, and when I woke up after kicking something that said my name, the closet door was wide open.
Well, yeah, okay. That's a lot to unpack right now. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, you go first, SOS.
Well, okay. From the voice thing is that's unusual. We get a lot of and I've had this happen. I have bloodhounds or big dogs, right? And so when they've passed, I felt them lean against my leg, and I've reached down to instinctively pet, and they're not there, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah. So, And then we've had people call, and we have a demonologist on our team who's fabulous. He's an amazing guy because he's able to talk people down off the ledge, you know?
Makes sense.
And he'll work through these things. Like we had a lady call and she was frantic she's like, my dog passed and now I'm hearing growling everywhere. Or no, she didn't say the dog passed. She goes, I keep hearing growling in my house. Terrified, right? And Mark was able to talk with her and he said, did you have a dog that just passed? And she said, yeah, how did you know? And he goes, I don't think the growling is at you. I think it's the growling of the dog guarding you. I mean,
Yep.
there's things
Makes
that
sense.
you can do to, you know what I mean? But the voice thing is what I'm trying to work out in my head right now. That I don't know what that connection is. That's interesting, and it didn't happen until. Go ahead,
I was gonna
Deepak.
say, could it be that the thing that you did kick, number one, was your dog? Because if your dog was used to sleeping, of course it's always, I've always had that feeling. Like I've had dogs in the past that, you know, you're always tripping over because the damn thing's getting between your legs, and then you get pissed off at them. You're like, this damn dog. And then once they pass, I swear you trip over nothing, and then you're like, is it a habit that whenever I walk into a room, I'm so accustomed to tripping, I always trip? But then it's like a feeling that you miss that. But in a way, like I'm a skeptic when it comes to a lot of these things. But when I go out into the property and I'm out there, sometimes because I've had dogs follow me everywhere, so I have, I'll always instinctually feel where the dog is, and I do that. And every once in a while, I'm like, I must be really tired. But when I go to reach back to kind of feel the dog, I swear I feel something there. There's something. So my question was, do you think that, number one, that the dog was there, because it's always used to sleeping there, and number two, maybe it was trying to guard you against maybe something that was always there, only maybe now this thing had a resistance because you weren't aware that it was there.
See, and I would kind of lean more towards the second answer. Like I said, I was half asleep when this happened, so I could have misinterpreted what I thought was a voice as the dog growling. That is very plausible. When you're half asleep, you might hear things that don't exactly sound like they should. So I did do the voodoo doll thing before the dog had passed. So is it possible that had drawn something in and the dog was there spiritually protecting me from whatever I drew in? That's very plausible.
Oh, that's
So,
badass if it is. Can you
so
imagine if your dog is trained to attack demonic entities? That'd be so cool.
that would be awesome.
Boy, and just like grabs a poltergeist and all kinds of shit.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
I
that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, my first instinct would say that there isn't a connection between the voodoo thing and this. I think this is your dog. I think it's really your dog. I have had cats that after they've passed away, I've felt them jump on the bed in the middle of the night. When like I'll be reading a book and I'll feel them jump, and they're not there anymore. You know what I mean? They're dead.
Yeah.
So
that would, and it being the dog would make sense because a few weeks after this whole thing happened, I don't have necessarily like the bed that I had a side, right? Like it went down to the floor. It wasn't underneath the bed type bed. I noticed marks, all that were not there before.
Huh.
So that I found is odd. So following the week after I noticed the scratch marks, I started hearing taps on my window. The taps on my bedroom window would come in sets of 3 every day at 3:10 a.m. I could almost set my watch to it, and this happened for exactly 3 months. Now, I would not have bought too much into it if there wasn't a street light right outside my window, so I could see if there was a shadow out there. And I would open the blinds, no one would be there. So I told a couple of cousins about it, and believe me, I came down to the house, and I had 6 different people witness the taps on the window, and they personally opened the blinds themselves and saw that no one was there.
Dude, can you imagine if somebody looks out and it's a girl having the wrong house? She's like,
You know what? Back then I was in Alabama. There is a lot of meth
oh
heads.
yeah,
So
that
out.
probably that was it. She probably wouldn't have said your name.
I really hope not.
No, but you know what? Like when you said that you don't think that the voodoo, and I'm not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. SOS is the expert here, but when you did the whole voodoo doll thing, do you think that the intention behind it might have like drawn some kind of negative? Whoops!
Whoa!
Wow! Damn! See what's going on here? Shame on you.
It's the doll.
So like, can you imagine like if can man? It's hard for me to think because I don't know how
Yeah, but
energy works. Could
when
it have
it
been
comes
how
negative?
far?
when it comes to
How,
objects like that, the intent you put into the object can absolutely draw
exactly.
the same energy.
Yeah, but how far? What is your space, your timeline here between the doll and the dog?
Probably a week and a half.
Oh, you mean you made the voodoo doll and then the dog died? Oh.
Are
I
you?
thought it was like years apart. Okay.
No,
That's
maybe a week and
interesting.
a half.
Ooh.
And then how long did you experience stuff after the dog died?
For probably 4 years.
Oh
What do you
shit.
think stopped it?
I honestly don't know. I can tell you that after the tapping on the window thing that I just described to you, I ended up getting married and I moved to my parents' house, right? We moved into this trailer in a little town called Clayhatchee. It's one of those towns that's so small, like their police department closes at 8 and you have to call the state troopers if you want anything done after 8 o'clock, and it's going to take them 3 hours to get there. So I used to work night shifts. I would go in at work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, get off at 2 o'clock in the morning. I would come home and I'd see the light in the kitchen on and I'd see people walking. I thought it was my ex-wife until I went inside and realized that everybody was asleep. So my brother lived in this house before I did, and he always said he felt uncomfortable in the bedroom that we were calling the master bedroom, and he felt uncomfortable in the hallway. I come home from work one night and I fall asleep, and I don't know if either of you have ever experienced something called sleep paralysis, where you
Hmm?
kind of wake up and you feel this pressure and you can't shake it off, you can't move. And it's one of the most terrifying things you'll ever experience. If you've never experienced it before, I surely hope you never do. So I was half awake and I felt this pressure here, and I felt this pressure around my neck. After what seemed to be an hour, but let's face it, when you're in that state, it was probably maybe a few seconds. I shook it off, and when I sat up, there was a figure standing at the foot of the bed that actually floated. It did not walk, there were no legs moving, into the hallway and out of our bedroom, and the light bulb in the hallway got bright and actually shattered.
Oh shit.
And after that, I didn't experience anything else.
It stopped after that experience?
That was the last experience I had with that specific entity that I can
Damn.
recall.
Now I have
That's really interesting.
now I have a couple of theories. One of my theories is like, could you imagine if again this damn dog, damn dog spirit? Because normally when there's a shadow figure, lights tend to dim. They don't get
Right.
super bright. So I wonder if something there kind of like told to get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? And there was like so much energy. It could have been. I don't know. It's nice to think about, but it could have been. You never
Yeah,
know.
I'm really not sure because you're 100% right. Typically in that scenario, lights would dim. They wouldn't get
Get
bright.
super bright. But
The only other thing that crosses my mind is your belief system is very similar to my belief system, and I wonder if something was there to protect you
And that's very
and
possible
was.
too. I mean, I can't rule that out. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure. And
Yeah.
so I don't think it was the same entity, but later on after that, when I had my second child, I moved in with my ex-fiance. And they told me that there was a spirit in the house that did not like men. I went to sleep one night and I felt something pushing on my back. And when I rolled over, there was a face there and it looked like it had sharp teeth and dreadlocks. So me being the guy I am, I'm bad at it.
bad on the demonic
Instant,
entity that sold pot.
instant reaction. And I I don't believe after that, we lived there for probably 3 months after that, maybe 4. And I don't think I ever slept a full night after that because you would feel the bed vibrate when we were.
Really?
I had never experienced anything like that before. And one of the major 2 occurrences into investigating the paranormal.
Oh shit! Yeah, I read stories where number one. Okay, so I read this story where this person would be in the middle of the night and they believed they had sleep apnea. They could have had sleep apnea. I don't know. So, but had sleep apnea, would stop breathing in the middle of the night, and people would hear him snoring super loud and then stops. And people are like, oh, that damn sleep apnea. Until one of the family members, could have been, doesn't matter, but one of the family was walking past the bedroom one time, go to the bathroom, and it was right at the time where this person stopped snoring. And they peek in to kind of check. It's like, well, shit, he's been not breathing for a long time. I better go in there and wake him up or do something. So he goes in there, peeks in, and sees a shadow figure on top of this person, almost like it was choking him. And then once this thing noticed that it was seen, it kind of like looked and then said that it sunk into the bed and was gone. You know, and as it was sinking into the bed, you vibration on the like sinking. You know, it's the vibration on your feet, and then it was gone. You know, so
something that we refer to as hag attack.
Ooh, the old hag. Are you familiar with that, SOS? And I don't mean like your crazy aunt that's on the and all of a sudden, you know, he brings up all the shit you've ever done in history, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that definitely could be that. There's so many, you know, that's the thing about the paranormal, the supernatural. Nobody's an expert.
No.
We keep investigating and keep working and keep expanding our knowledge base, and like I've told you kind of a million times, like we're the sum of our experiences. So you will come at it from a completely different approach that I might, because of my background is different than yours.
Right.
But it doesn't mean either of us are wrong, but we keep learning.
And you're 100% right on that. And there's so many people who disagree on what's right and what's wrong. There's no right or do this. I mean, to be honest with you, we are dealing with a field of pseudoscience. We bring all these pieces of equipment, and realistically, we don't even know that they're working like we think they do.
Right. I've had some really, I mean, it's amazing when I have a little bit of a medium ability, but I work with great mediums who are fabulous at what they do. And, you know, we'll go into a building and they'll have already determined like who's in the building before we get there. And then we'll be working on stuff and we'll get an EVP with those names. That's like awesome, you know, because they've already written it down on the way to the building or the way to the house or whatever.
And
I'm the one that...
That's how you can definitely tell someone's a true medium, is if they can get that information without being told anything before they ever reach the location. I've not had a chance to work with a true medium. I've a few of them in the past. And I've pretty much figured out all of them were not not unfortunately experienced to work with someone with that. I would love to see it work.
It's amazing. I have 3 of them on my team who are... I take all of the calls and I get all the information, but I don't tell the team. I just give them the address. This is where we're going, and I don't give them the address until we're that night where we're going. I don't want, you know what I mean? Unless it's a big public venue and we have to coordinate with other teams to have them come in and help us because it's so big or whatever. But usually they don't have any knowledge. They don't know anything about it. So when we get there and they're already walking in the door and saying, we did one just recently and they're like, oh, this guy named Charles is here and he used to work here in this building. And then I was going through the EVPs the other night doing the video for the client, and Charlie came up and was the EVP. I was like, that's so cool. I mean, I love that.
Correlation is awesome.
I know, but you do, and we get that a lot, but you don't always get it. And you know, you can do the flashlight thing. There's all these tools that we can use. But like you said, you just don't know. You don't know. I tend to use the dowsing rods. Those are my favorite. And they work incredibly for me. It's a thing. My dad's side of the family were Druids. And so they use the dowsing rods for water and to well drilling. And so that's how we drilled our wells. And so that was kind of handed down to me, is to use those rods. But, you know, everybody has different tools they like. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's right. We just hopefully are helping our client.
Yeah.
We do a lot of homes.
I'll be wrong. I'll be wrong all the time. I don't do any investigation or anything like that. I'll just show up drunk, not know what the hell's going on. I'll probably show up at the wrong house, too.
Yeah.
There's a bag right there. like, dude, that's my grandma.
That's,
But damn. And so, Nate, you have a team, correct?
I have two.
Two teams.
I have two. I have one in Alabama, which is where I'm Southeastern Ghost Research Association. Now that I'm no longer living in Alabama, I have my co-founder running that team down there. He just liaisons through me for cases that he takes because he's not the best at the interview system, so I kind of handle that for him. And up here in New Hampshire, I have the Newport Paranormal Society.
And you said
Cool.
the interview system. What is the interview system?
So I have a specific list of questions that I ask every client. Some of them, they may feel uncomfortable answering, but to be honest with you, to figure out, because I don't do a lot of big venues, okay? I got booked for 2 big venues next year already. But typically my thing is I handle residential cases, and that's probably why I'm not more in the paranormal community, because a lot of these bigger locations, I do it to help the family, for
Yeah.
fame. I don't. And so when I go into a place, specific list of questions that I have every single client fill out. And good example, any history of mental illness in the family, any history of
Exactly.
drug, any history of sexual abuse. Like I said, some of them, are a little bit invasive questions, but I need to understand its mindset to ensure it's not their psyche that's causing the activity that they're experiencing.
Oh, that's an interesting question. When you said any history, because a lot of people that are listening to this and they're not really like in tune with or are knowledgeable about what questions to ask. Why would you ask the sexual abuse one?
Because the sexual abuse thing, so that can cause a lot of negative effects in your mind, okay? So you can cause depression, it can cause anger issues, it can actually cause different forms of mental disorders if you don't know how to properly cope with it. So in a way, any kind of abuse that could have been of that form of, you may want that person to take a evaluation before you can see the case further, because you realistically know what kind of trauma they experience.
Yeah. See, that makes
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
if you have something in your state like we have here, but so if there's you can pretty easily hear through the Idaho repositories what it's called. You can look up to see if there's criminal history. I always recommend paranormal teams do that.
That is
Look up
absolutely
criminal history
yeah. Make sure
because
you're not walking into a meth lab.
well, we actually almost had gunplay on an investigation once because of something we got in the middle of we were walking into, So I do now, absolutely. That was a long time ago, but make sure that I look up criminal history.
so
And
that
if
that
there's anything sketchy, I don't go.
so that actually is in part of my questionnaire. Part of my questionnaire is, would you be willing to pay for a criminal background check? So, because as I'm a self-funded, I don't charge for investigations. I go in and do this stuff for free out of my own time. So the
Yep.
least I do is make sure that my team is safe going in.
Yep.
Yeah, and the
You
whole
bet.
thing with the whole thing with not charging, when people do it because they legitimately want to help somebody, it really keeps everybody like on a moral line. Because when you start charging, that's when you. I'm not saying it's for like everybody will be this way, but there's this huge urge to make things happen when there's nothing there, because you're invested in it on it, you know, you know what I mean?
Exactly. What is paying you for your services, and you feel obliged to
Yep.
give them the results they
Give them
require,
something.
Yep.
and let's face
Yeah.
it, I'm sure SOS knows. Sometimes when you go into these places, you can go in there for 9 or 10 hours and not experience anything that the clients tell you that they are experiencing. I've had that happen before. And sometimes it'll take multiple investigations at one location to actually finally get to the bottom of the answers.
Yep.
Have you guys ever experienced a client that fakes evidence?
I have.
Oh yeah.
Let's go into that, because I have so I have an acquaintance that does investigations too, not USOS. That does investigations, and this person was opening up a bed and breakfast, and was like, "Hey, we've been getting see, you guys are kind of like being smart there. It's opening up a bed and breakfast, and they're like, "Hey, can you come out and investigate?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll go out there. We'll check it out." And they got nothing. They kept getting nothing. But then they started getting a lot of activity. So he went out there and he put cameras like in certain places so they can monitor, the guy in the van. And then before the investigation was over, they all went off running, going to a certain room. They're packing, they're looking, and then they're trying to figure out. So like, we heard something. And then the guy in the van was kind of like, hey, just stop. We got to just let this go. So he's like, what are you doing? Why? Why are we doing this? So showed him the evidence that in this room that was the most haunted room or the most haunted area of the house, these guys are in there, they're investigating, and the owner of the bed and breakfast comes in and throws something in the room and walks off. And then everybody goes running into that room. So this person was doing it to kind of get fame, like this place is haunted, just to kind of get the...
Yep. And you will encounter time to time.
Yep. We've had clients do it. Yeah. I mean, as soon as we find it, we pack up and leave, and that's it.
Yep.
They're done.
And that's all you
They're
can
done.
do.
We don't.
To be honest,
Yep.
that's all you can do. And that's part of the reason I do the TikToks that I do. I don't know if either one of you have ever seen my TikTok channel. But that's why I do a lot of what I do on there, is because, I'm not necessarily trying to call people out. It's just there is so much out there that's fake. You really do need to know what you're looking for.
It's really hard as an investigator like you. We'll put up our videos, and I know my team has a lot of integrity, and I know for a fact where everybody is during that investigation, and I know we're not faking anything. But another team might look at it and tear it apart. I mean, that's what we all face, and that's fine. I do know. And the one thing that I won't, like, if we're in a house, the homeowner has to be with us.
Yes.
If we're in a business, the business owner has to be with us, or the manager. I want them to know we're not faking anything. We're not stealing anything. There's nothing weird going on. You know what I mean? And I want them to see that. So if they're there with us that whole night, they know what we're doing is credible. They know we're not up to anything.
So I'm glad I'm not weird on that, because I do the same thing. I tell my clients when I'm there, if I ask them to be quiet at a point in time, then to be quiet. But since I'm not there and experiences are happening when you're going about your daily routine, I want to see what acts up when you're going about your daily routine. So I sit back, I set up some equipment, I'm like, act like I'm not even here. Let them do their thing. And then when they're ready for bed, I was like, you guys go to bed. I'll be as quiet as I can, but I'm going to continue forward throughout the night. Because typically they allow me to crash on their couch or something. And I like them to be there.
Yeah, and I kind of see that. I mean, I do the same thing with, not with investigating. I don't investigate anything unless, anyways, I'm some yard sale or some shit.
Come out with me.
Well, like, dude, let's do it. I've been telling SOS we need to go on a road trip and like start hitting some haunted locations. Dude, but I say the same thing when I see videos of like fake martial arts instructors that are teaching people a bullshit system, and and I'll look at that stuff and I'll make fun of it like on my other channel. Don't go on my other stuff, and I'll kind of like break it down and look at it, because it's one of those things where this person is taking advantage of somebody. Giving them a false sense of security, giving them, in the end, he's ripping them off. And with the paranormal, I would imagine that, don't know what to look for. The reason why you certain things is because there that will take advantage of somebody who is or mentally vulnerable. And these people can be dangerous,
No, and people will absolutely take advantage of anything if they think they can make $1 off it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that's kind of like, like I said, it's kind of like why I do my TikToks. It's because I like showing people alternative explanations. I'm not always right. I try alternative explanations that's going on, and maybe people, hey, if I'm this, maybe I need to look at it from the way that this guy would. Let me sit here and look at it like this. And then they may notice something that they didn't notice before. Because sometimes, you know what? A little ball of light could be as simple as a small object that's giving off a small reflection just based off the camera angle from the distance. So, there's various aspects that can cause all strange things.
Have you guys seen that footage of the haunted high school where like all the lockers opened and and all kinds of shit? So these people were live streaming something like that, and you saw all the lockers open or whatever it was, and they left. They're like, oh yeah, F this, and they run out of the room. So they run out of the school, and then somebody went in there. It was like, we're gonna try to get the same results, and they went into the school and they found fishing line everywhere. Like everything on there was hooked with fishing line. And
So there is the occasion that I'll recreate videos on my TikTok channel where I use monofilament fishing line. It's the thinnest fishing line out there. It's very difficult to see, but it's pretty strong. You can do just about anything with it.
yeah, it's excellent for trout. Trout are pretty smart fish. They see a fishing
Oh yeah,
line, they won't bite. But
and I don't do fishing other than what I tie up to the strings. So
Well, you need to
so
come out here we'll take you over to the Tetons and world-class fishing.
yeah,
oh,
get
see, that'd be
beat
awesome.
up and robbed by a Bigfoot or something.
I stopped fishing like shortly after I left Alabama. The only thing I can ever remember catching was one time in Alabama I caught an alligator gar. That was pretty damn cool. Those are ugly fish.
Mm,
Oh,
And
they are.
otherwise than that, I catch sticks.
no.
Yeah.
I've met plenty of people like that, but then afterwards they're like, dude, you should have seen the size of this fish. Like, dude, I was there. You caught a fucking stick. Anyways, so back to the voodoo doll. I know we started off the show with the voodoo doll, but with the voodoo doll, so what happened to it? And how did you hear about it? How did you hear about making voodoo dolls?
So, like anything else, when it comes to things of this nature, I have a ton of books. So I'm a firm believer in research. Before you have a firm understanding on something, you have to know where it came from. You have to understand the basics. You have to know exactly what you're doing. And in this particular case, I jumped a few chapters and did not know what I was doing. As far as to the doll, I'm going to be honest. It was on the shelf, and I've never been able to find it.
Ooh, that's crazy. Can you imagine if like found a Chucky doll and they both eloped and left?
That would suck.
They're over at your house now with those dolls of yours.
They're over here with all my dolls and shit. See, and that's the thing is, a lot of people, they don't see the damage that they can do. I mean, something like you were pissed off at somebody, and I'm gonna make this doll again. Like we're worrying you in an emotion. We talked about tulpas before there in this SOS. About people,
Yeah.
creating something very, very negative. And it may be the same thing with voodoo dolls. I'm not entirely, sure where I stand on that. But if you're gonna make a voodoo doll about somebody, you're in a very dark place in your life.
And I was in a very dark place for a while. So I consider this guy my best friend, and he ended up sleeping with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened.
So,
dude.
and that's, but that's true, the tulpa thing, right? So not necessarily, you're putting your intention and energy into something, and you put that out in the atmosphere. Who knows what happens with it? Does it come back karma? I don't know, but intention is very powerful.
Very similar to the rule of return.
Right.
What comes back tenfold.
So, yeah.
What came back is like tested itself in herpes. Those people.
Oh, it's the saber-toothed crotch crickets.
Oh, jeez.
So you got it. Yeah, I just think that that's interesting. You don't know what happened to it, but that doesn't mean it got up and walked away on its own. It just.
I obviously don't think that happened. I have a feeling that throughout some point in time, someone went into my room, didn't know what it was, and just took it and tossed it, or someone took it knowing what it was and hid it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what's interesting is we're in a very LDS community here, right? And they don't voodoo dolls, but they sell voodoo dolls in the shop. They call it something else. They're voodoo dolls with little pins and everything. Oh man!
Yeah, it's
like
creepy.
To the little old lady at the gift shop. I'm like, you know what this is, right?
Yeah, I've seen those, and for those of you guys that know what they might be, leave those comments in the
section. What are they called? But they call them something. Oh no, they're not voodoo dolls. I'm like, oh yes,
they're not voodoo dolls. But if I stick this needle in your eye, it'll really hurt somebody.
That's like looking at a goose. That's not a goose.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can change them. That's so insane. So I'm gonna ask both of you guys this question. How do you go into it's kind of like when you're trying to swarm on criminal of some kind. You gotta make sure you gotta get your whole. How do you prepare before you enter it? Because it can be a very very dark, haunting of some sort. How do you guys prepare?
So are we assuming we mean spiritual wise?
Yeah, just in general. Like, what are the rituals? Let's call them rituals.
Well, I'll go with mine after.
What?
He said. He said you go first.
You look
I'm
like you were going to
sorry.
say
I was
something. I
waiting
was
for
going to let you go
you.
first, and I'll follow up.
I'm sorry.
She was thinking
Amanda.
about voodoo dolls and herpes.
Oh, Jesus, Deacon. I swear to God, I don't know that I actually have a ritual. I'm meaner than hell anyway. I am just mean, and so nothing messes with me. I mean, really, I have a lot of walls that I've put up. Like my friends, the medium friends that hang out with me, right? And they can feel my property way down the road because I have that intention of protection, and I have gates on my driveway. Everything's walled off. Everything's walled off. I don't want anything coming in here that I don't invite. And I do that this way too. I mean, I don't let anything in. But I think it's just an intention that I do every single day. So I don't think I do anything different.
So for me, my thing is I follow a ritual of what I call grounding and center, where I will ground myself and center myself by taking a shower, picturing myself covered in mud, and taking my time washing the mud off to cleanse my spirit. And I will do this before and after every single investigation, and I've never brought anything negative home with me.
What is the origin of that ritual that you got going? Or is it just
You
something
know,
that you just
I'm
visual?
gonna be honest. I'm not exactly sure. So I don't know if either of you are familiar with a medium called Michelle Belanger.
It sounds
Well,
very familiar.
she wrote a book called The Ghost Hunter Survival Guide.
Yeah, yeah.
She describes that technique in her book, where I adapted it from, and I've used it ever since I've read that book, and I've never encountered or brought home anything negative.
Yeah,
They
I think what's important is that whatever technique works for you, you do it. Like for me, it's just I just know that I'm shielded all the time, and I rarely let that guard down. And for him, he's doing a grounding technique. I think that's the key, right?
Right.
with you SOS, I don't think that you do it, Richard, because your mother was big into this kind of stuff. So like maybe she kind of like, I don't know, like helped you protect yourself throughout the years as you're, looking at these things, and maybe something you did subconsciously, like putting up these walls
It
and
could be.
shields.
It could be. I always consider myself shielded all the time. I never let anything in. You know.
This is a
That's
good.
why it's so unusual for me when it usually happens when I go to bed. Right. We're going to get into bed, and all of a sudden, like there's pacing in my bed. Where did he come from? So I put it out on my page. I'll say something. Did in this right now? Does this mean anything to any of my followers? And like immediately somebody will boom. Yeah, that's my grandpa. And I'll say, yeah, he's, like he's got one shoulder hunched down and he's walking crooked. She goes, yeah, he had a shoulder. They'll say to me, but I'm shielded and I don't let anything. They come in excited, but they're not trying to communicate, get that message through. So I try to help them,
it's
connect
you
with
know
their family.
you know what that sounds like to me. So I bring everything to self-defense. I'm sorry, guys, but there's like, if you're out there in the world and you're walking about, criminals will see who they can victimize based on body language. So I tell a lot of people, when you're walking in public, chest out, head up, shoulders back, and walk, head on a swivel. Always look alert, because somebody that is a criminal will be like, okay, that person is, looks too confident. They're armed. or they know something that I don't know. You know, they're comfortable, but they look confident for a reason. They'll look at the person that's kind of hunched over and looks kind of scared, or is on their phone as they walk. You know, and I wonder if that's something that you learned. You know, you know what I mean? Am I making? Am I just drunk?
Yeah, the energy that the person, they can sense when the person could actually defend themselves by their body posture. And you know, when you're doing pre-interview investigations, you know, it's something for as well. You can tell by a person from their body movements, eye movements, whether or not when they're talking, try to change the story. So watching for this particular kind of body language and or language, if you want to word it that way as well, that's very important when you're doing an interview process.
That's what I was gonna ask you too, because there's a lot of techniques when you interview a person. Would it be like you interview somebody, like tell me what happened? It usually like in domestic violence cases, you know, like what happened, and tell you the story. You wait like an hour or something, and then you send in a bill like, hey, I know, like, can you tell me really quickly what? Because they're looking for those details to see if there's discrepancies and like what is going on, because it could mean a lot of things. But that's a good tip.
And
So
that's why I do multiple interviews. I'll normally do a phone interview first, and then I will invite the person out to lunch, and we'll sit down and we'll do an in-person interview. So during this whole phone, I make sure they know, hey, I'm recording a conversation for note-taking purposes. Make sure that they know you're recording the call. It's illegal if you
yeah,
don't. So I record the call, I'll take notes, and then when I go to do the interview, I'll actually have these notes with me. And I will document the same exact questions that I asked them before. I'll document their answers and see if anything mismatches. When you start seeing things that do not match up in the story to one interview to the next, there's a good chance that there is some form of, I guess you could say, fabrication in their story.
yeah, dude. So if I ever
You
have
know,
lunch with you, I'll ask you, I'm like, dude, are you wearing a wire?
well, my was not only just a psychic, but she was also active. So I learned a lot of interview techniques with her, and that, I mean, it's really good. But and um, I think if you're listening to your BS meter, your internal one, you know
Yeah,
what's going on.
Oh
And
yeah.
I usually, for about maybe every 20 calls or more that we take, I might take one case, because something's just not, it's not right. It's not, I can tell there's
You
holes
can
all over
feel
the
it.
story.
You can
Mm-hmm.
feel it.
Mm-hmm. I had a young guy called me probably 5 years ago with the story about what was going on with his roommate. And finally, after about 20 minutes into the conversation, I said, and what did you guys take? He goes, what do you mean? And I said, what did you take? I said, there's drugs involved with this story here. What did you take? He finally told me. And I'm like, dude, there's nothing paranormal going on here. It's all hallucinations.
you just got some
You're
good
high.
stuff.
I'm like, come on, quit wasting time. And I never heard from him, you know, because I called him.
And you're 100% right. You know, when people do, it is a huge waste of time.
Everybody's time.
And it does happen. And then you got those people that call you and they request you come out and help, and you actually might, you know, they might have convinced you that their story's real. And then when you get there, the first question they ask is, well, where's the camera crew? Like, where's all the... No,
Yeah.
that's not
Nope.
what we're here for. We're not here to make you famous. We're here to help. Well, I
See,
expected a lot more people. I can do just fine with the 4 or 5 people I have here. We don't need a camera crew.
Yeah.
this dirty dog's with my woman. You're not with Jerry Springer, and they're like, no, he's dead. Like Jerry Springer's dead. Like, look.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that paranormal guy tried to contact him via spirit box after he died.
I think it's bothering you, you know. And for you wondering, writing down, I'm actually drawing. So as I'm going.
Nice.
Anyways, so it makes me look more professional. I'm sorry, guys.
Here
I
thought he was taking notes. You know, he's not.
I did too. I'm not gonna lie, but that's a pretty bad drawing.
Oh my god.
But damn. So okay, here's another question that I have. Sorry, guys, this whole thing is fascinating. So, do you guys carry like let's call it a for investigations? You guys with holy water or anything age like when you guys are going somewhere? The hate kid, I'm so ridiculous. Oh, yeah, well there it is.
Yeah.
Florida water, holy water. I have sage. I have multiple things, and the reason for that being is, with me being Wiccan, not a lot of people, are going to be open to my form of cleansing. So I have found it best to try my best to formulate to the belief of the person that I am investigating. House cleansed, Christian, you obviously want holy water. If they want their house cleansed and they are some form of other religion, Florida water works pretty well. This is pretty universal for things. I also have anointed oils, but I also have sage. And a lot of people don't realize that sage is more along the lines of a temporary fix. Yeah, you can bless a house with sage all you want, but unless you can call someone in and actually someone who can send a spirit to the light if the spirit wants to go, the sage is just going to temporarily relieve the symptoms.
We never cleanse the night of an investigation. It's just not something that we do. We'll go in afterwards.
I only do it on request.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. Well, I've tried, and what I find is that usually things just doesn't work well for us on the investigation night. We try to make sure everything's calm before we leave, but that's why the mediums are so helpful, and they're the Mark demonologist, because he'll go in afterwards and they'll, yeah,
right. Which honestly is the do it. I aspect 100%. It is calm down days and then later.
Cleanse. That's the one thing I cannot do. When I've gone in to cleanse is when I am open like you would not believe, and everything attacks me. I don't cleanse. So I stay as far away from that as possible. I don't even cleanse my own house.
Okay, so for those people that don't know, explain what Florida water is, because a lot of people listening, they're like, damn, from that swamp where that meth head was found last week.
No, but I do have somewhere around here. I have a bottle of water from the Fountain of Youth Park in Ponce de Leon.
There you go.
That's so funny. Dude, that's badass. You're like Constantine.
Ponce de Leon was one of the first teams to ever be invited there to investigate for the claims of Native American spirits that are on the grounds. So they gifted me with a bottle of water from the so-called Fountain of Youth, which is nothing more than mineral water, which smells like sewage and tastes about the same. So Florida water, it's basically in it. So if you read the bottle, it actually says Florida water cologne, right? So it is basically a blessed water that's blessed by some form of shaman, and it does have a scent to it. So a lot of people actually use this as a cologne during cleansings, like for your physical. They don't typically for house cleansings.
So I had a friend. Oh man, this guy's so ridiculous. He's dead now, by the way. But I had this friend who had a Florida water, and he would splash. And I'm like, dude, why are you putting on Florida water? He says, because it drives the witches wild.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's damn it. I missed that guy. Holy shit.
That is basically what it's used for. It's more along the line for your own personal cleansing than it is for actually cleansing a location.
So I'm gonna start wearing Florida water, like at a Wiccan fest or something. This time, see the reaction of people. Anyways, so
I like it.
So so what I'm getting out of the whole, when you're looking at somebody's belief system, and let's say that you're cleansing, I wonder how much of that works way because the person has now confidence, and like SOS said, negative energies, like don't go home with her because like this person, number one, might put up a fight. Number two is not the type of victim that I'm looking for. There's confidence there, and if I'm looking for somebody to victimize to somebody that's weak spiritually, this is not the person. I'm just gonna pass. Right. I wonder if depending on their belief system, if you start blessing a home, if that gives these people like gusto or like gives them some kind of confidence where whatever the hell's in there is like, damn, tonight is not, there's something different. I don't
And
know.
that
That's just my theory.
and that very well could be because, to be honest with you, whenever we go in, or myself, I can't speak for myself. When I go in and I investigate a client's home, I'm there to help ease their minds about what's going on. I'm here to explain what's going on, capture evidence of what's going on, and tell them the best that I can what I think may be there, and then help them make themselves empower themselves, so to speak, to take their house back. Because 9 times out of 10, the spirit that's there will move on if they just make it sternly known, hey, this is my house. You're welcome to stay, but this is my house. You got to stop scaring me.
And
Yeah, and a lot of times what you find is that it's dead Uncle Fred, right? I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
it's somebody in their family. Do you really want to chase out dead Uncle Fred? I mean, if he was a
that's
cool
what
person.
that's what I want. That's exactly what I was gonna ask. Is a lot of the times when somebody they want the house cleansed, like maybe, and like I said, I'm a skeptic of a lot of these things, but the person that lives in that home, maybe dead Uncle Fred, he's like, oh shit, I'm guessing this person doesn't want me here. I'm just because again, like with dead Uncle Fred, he was a prankster in life. Like he's the kind of guy that's, you sit down and you have your beer, and then he's like, hey, change that. Like back when TVs were click, 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 like manual, he's like, change the channel for me. I don't want to watch this. You go over there and he grabs your beer and he walks off, and now he's drinking it. And you're like, where the hell did my beer? And now that he's dead, he's like trying to pull the same shit, and he may be like, oh, damn, like I guess I'm not welcome here. I guess I'll go haunt
You know,
that fucking crack house down there.
yeah, and what you said there, the way you described that was almost perfectly about being the trickster in life. That's the energy he left behind, and that's why I'm really a firm believer. And like, if you watch television nowadays, everything's a damn demon, right?
Yeah.
I
Everything is.
stand that because
Being affected? Oh, hey,
if
Aaron,
you're
I'm being affected.
if you're a person who was a person in life, going to leave behind a nasty energy that doesn't make it
Yep.
You know what? Human spirits can scratch, they can bite, they can do all the
Yeah.
same things a demonic spirit can do. But the fact is, people are under the misconception based off of the sensationalism on television that everything nowadays, if
Everything's a
it seems
demon.
remotely negative, is a demon.
Right. And so our team was part of the paranormal clergy with one of the exorcists in the US. I have never ever encountered something like that. Now, I've encountered something really ugly, and I've encountered inhuman entities, but nothing like that. With the reservation, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that it's not dead Uncle Fred, and it's
People
not
are
human.
drunk.
But it's not. Everything's a demon now. It is not a demon.
It's
It
not.
is not a demon.
It's not.
So,
I've been normal for over 16 years, and I have never encountered a demon. I have encountered some pretty nasty human entities,
yeah.
but never a demon.
Yeah, we have encountered two things out here called the Keeper and the Watcher, and they're very interesting things. They're not human, and they're not conjured.
They're almost like elementals, right?
No, I would not classify them as elementals at all.
I know what he's talking about, but
Yeah, but these are old. Like we give them a like. Have you seen it? They're huge, enormous, like they fill up a room, but they tend to be drawn to this reservation, and we've encountered them right off the border of the reservation, but the reservation's an arbitrary boundary that was drawn, so I don't know where these things originated, but they describe themselves as older than time.
yeah,
And they can make people very, very, very ill. Very ill.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know too much about those style of entities. I'm gonna have to do some research on those because now you have me very intrigued.
That's the name that they came up to through with our demonologists and our mediums. That's all of them at the same time said the Keeper and the Watcher, but I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. but we've gotten one of them on video.
What
Yeah.
you have? I didn't know that. How the hell did I
Yep.
not know that?
The Blackfoot investigation, if you pull up
Oh,
our video,
okay.
and it's in the mirror. You can't see it, but you can see it in the mirror. And it's probably close to 8 feet tall with red eyes. I don't
Damn,
know what it is.
that's
But
crazy.
every house that we've encountered these two things in, the people have gotten very chronically ill. And the watcher just watches all of the chaos that the keeper's creating. And it's like they feed, that energy's feeding off each other. And it's bizarre. Now,
So it's almost like they're,
he's a pervert.
huh? I'm sorry, Nate?
It's almost like they're working in conjunction with one another. Is
Exactly. We've never encountered them separately, always together. And I don't know what they are, but they are not human. They're not human, but I wouldn't put them as demons. They just are. I don't know what they are.
Sometimes
they just are.
Sometimes the way it is. They just are.
Yeah. I can't even describe what they even feel like. You can feel, and we had to bounce them out of that house one night, and so we created a fight within the team. We just started. We needed to amp up the energy as much as we could, and so we just started yelling and screaming at each other and saying every dirty thing that you could think of just to amp that energy up.
Just to get that energy.
And then Mark slingshotted them out of the house that night, and they have not been back. But he's powerful, and I'm not capable of doing something like that.
What I would have done is I would have been like, well, SOS, I know that because this thing is really negative and just like bringing everybody down, this spirit is a female.
So you said balls earlier, so I can say you're an ass right now, right? So just saying.
See, it's working. It's no, but so with these kind of things, and that's what's crazy. I wonder if with the see, and the thing is that how much of this is just sensationalism when people watch TV and everything's a demon and everything's this, and how much of that does it feed into negative energy? You know, and it might make. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if it makes hauntings worse. I wonder if it just, does it legitimately make a haunting worse, or is it everybody now in the home is now, panicked because of what it could be, and now maybe a lamp falls or something falls, and then they're lift it up in it because they're so terrified in their brain that they make it up to be a lot worse than it actually is,
Well, think about it, right? A poltergeist is created by our own energy. I mean, our own chaos, our own static, right? So we can create that. Our minds can spiral shit out of control so fast. And so, if you have Dead Uncle Fred and all he's trying to do is take your beer, but you think it's a demon, you're going to create this situation so, just so blown up. And so we come into the house and we've had people in tears, like, please, my God, help us. We come in and we're like, so your grandma just died, right? And they're like, well, how do you know that? It's because she's standing right there in the corner.
Standing right there.
She's right over there. So, it's grandma. I mean, come on. So it's, we create so much chaos.
And here's a question. So, have you guys ever investigated a poltergeist where there wasn't a girl in the house? And I'm not going back to that thing earlier. I'm being serious here.
Oh,
that's insane. Why do you think that
every
is?
poltergeist every case I've ever worked on has had a teenage girl involved. I don't know about you, Nate.
So that relates back to, if you read the works of Dr. Hans Halser. Hans Halser did a lot of stuff when it comes to poltergeists. The theory was that it was related to the female menstrual system. So his thought was there were so many emotions going through the female body at that point in time that they would be able to project said energy out telekinetically because they don't know how to contain it within. So I don't know if you've ever heard that theory or not, SOS.
Oh, I absolutely know that's I have never worked on a case without a teenage girl involved in the house. They're in the house.
Either.
Or preteen, right at that cusp.
Right
Where
at the
the
cusp.
hormones are just starting and
Yep.
holy crap.
And
Yeah.
and it's just
Hell on
I
wheels, man, I'm telling you.
That's why poltergeist activity starts very quickly and then it stops abruptly.
Exactly. And
that's
people
what I was
don't
gonna say.
understand that.
That's what I was
Yep.
gonna say. I was
Yep.
gonna say that's why a lot of those situations they go
There's
up
a bell curve to it.
and then
And
boom,
it goes for a few years, and then as the hormones start kind of
balance,
regulating
and then
themselves, boom. Unless you have one staggers, you have like 4 or 5 girls, and then they're all start. It's like that bell curve is really long.
Yep.
Because it's
And
because
that's
if
where
it
you get
starts, poltergeist starts, then the next girl feeds the next girl,
Yep,
the next
that's where
girl.
you get the extended poltergeist activity. But typically
Yep.
it's a spike for a year, 2 years, and it stops.
Yep, exactly.
SOS, you had a. This is one of my favorite stories that she's ever told. I always go back to it whenever we have the opportunity. And I was gonna, and after she tells this story, if you ever had anything similar, SOS, you were in an investigation where a family would start fires based on their emotions. Can you kind of go a little bit into that?
Yeah, so this family is 2 different Native American tribes, and really nice people, but they fought a lot. And when they fight, they start fires all over the house.
Like spontaneous.
So, spontaneous combustion. Yeah, like we get to the house, and the first thing you notice when you come up to the house is that there's this enormous willow tree, but it's knotted all the way down, which if that's a Celtic thing, right? To knot those, and as they grow, that wards off.
They braid them. Yeah.
So this land is again right on the edge of the reservation that they live on, so they're technically on the reservation. But and so we get to the house and we're looking, and there's like burned appliances everywhere, like out in the backyard, like just tons. And I'm like, what is going on out there? And they said, well, and they're all electric. They don't have any gas in the house. So I'm like, what's happening here? Because they didn't say this on the phone.
Yeah, they're like, these people won't come out.
Yeah, every time we get in a fight, something catches on fire. So it's like electric stoves with like all burn marks coming out of the knobs, and microwaves that are all burned and in, oh my God, this is, and it's for real, and it doesn't end. So we had all kinds of stuff happen in that investigation. We ended up doing a Native American drumming circle the next investigation with them to try to kind of calm everything down. And that was the one time that I realized I can't do this. I can't not be here during the cleansing, because whatever was there attacked the heck out of me. We have he was a Jesuit priest turned monk who became, he's now out of the priesthood and monkhood and all that. He worked on our team for a number of years. He's probably the only reason that I didn't really get really badly attacked that night by whatever they created, that chaos in that house. Very much like a poltergeist, but it's not the same. I don't know. They'd spin things. I couldn't believe the just static in the air in that place. It was like
I can honestly say,
watch it go up.
I can honestly say that I've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, the one and only time.
That's crazy. But worded that though has me kind of interested. The way you worded, when you walk location, you can feel the static in the air, right?
Yeah.
So if it's electronic devices that are quote unquote catching fire, right? Static electricity can affect electric.
Right.
So what is the plausibility of this static that they're inputting into the air through their arguing and their energy actually causing these fires to realistically happen? That's I've never encountered that before.
We had so many bizarre things happen in that house that night, and subsequent nights that we've been there. And what's interesting is it's a blended family, and when the people who are really creating the fires, right, the younger people, they go down to the reservation down in Arizona for part of the year. When they leave, everything calms down in the house, but everything follows them down there. It's them. They just, I'm like, you guys need to practice yoga or do something. Y'all need
Yeah,
to bring it down because the electricity around these people when they fight is unbelievable. I've
And
never experienced anything like it.
now I do know that Hans Hauser in his book Ghosts, he actually does document a few cases where spontaneous fires would happen during times of poltergeist style activity.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that would be what would be going on there, but no, I can honestly say, Decon, I've never encountered anything like that.
It's
yeah.
bizarre. It's bizarre. But the problem is they're still together and they don't take, like, and you know what this is like, Nate. So you can only help people as much as they want to help themselves.
That's true.
Right? So we will give them, here's a list 1 through 10 of things that, pick 2 of things that maybe you can do to help yourselves out here, because we can't be in there every single day. And but when they won't pick any of those things and they just keep on the same behavior, finally
Change.
you just
You,
walk.
you can only do so
Yep.
much. I mean, it's hard to help somebody that has a problem for every solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, shit. All right, guys, we're gonna have to cut this short soon. So, Mr. Nate, where can people find your stuff, man?
So you can find me on TikTok at Static Voice. If you like debunking content and you like a good skeptical mindset, you will enjoy my content. You can find me on Twitter at Paranormal Nate. You can find me on Instagram at Nathaniel Elwell, and Facebook is the same, Nathaniel Elwell. And YouTube, you can find me at my handle Paranormal Nate.
All right, we'll
Very
leave
cool.
links in the description there if I can figure out how the hell to do that. So this was great, man. Thanks for coming on,
Thank
and
you.
No,
and
I greatly enjoyed it. I'll be more than happy to come back if you guys ever want me to come back. You
yeah.
just reach out.
We'd
Oh
love it.
hell yeah, this is fun. This is cool.
I appreciate
So
you letting me come on.
yeah, dude, fun man. I had a good time. So did Miss SOS there. Yeah. SOS, do you have anything to plug?
Anything to plug? Pocatello Paranormal Research, you know that.
Yeah, that's her stuff. I mean, her team is amazing. She's got a group of very talented individuals. I mean, they each have some very impressive set of skills. Well, now it sounds like the movie Taken. Some set of skills. But they're great ladies, great people. I mean, they would be. You girls are amazing. And, I mean, even some of the guys that are on there. So, except for Mark. His voice is so much
Mark.
his voice is so much better than mine, so I'm kind of jealous. But anyways, the guys like and subscribe. I mean, like and subscribe to Nate's stuff wherever you can find his stuff. You get the information, so go ahead and do that. And remember, guys, to always look both ways, especially if you find yourselves on Nightmare Road.